guys, what's up? I am Nikhil from dopemotions.com and welcome to this After Effects tutorial. In this video, I will be recreating one of my very old tutorial, and the reason I decided to recreate that tutorial is because of two big reasons. The first reason was the audio quality of that tutorial just was too horrible, cause at that time I guess it's 2 years old tutorial, and that time I didn't really had good mic to record tutorials, so that was one of the reason the audio quality was horrible. And the second reason was I forgot to show you guys how to do some really cool looking camera animation which I showed in the preview of the tutorial. So these are two big reasons, and many people were asking me to show this cool camera animation, which is actually very simple and easy, and also the audio quality sucked. So because of that, the tutorial was not that great. So yep, I decided to pretty quickly go through it and show you guys the complete tutorial from scratch, and let's recreate it and make it look more interesting and more better than before. So without any further ado, let's get straight into After Effects and get started. Alright, so here we are in After Effects, and here I have two images that I'm going to be using, which is the Earth outline image, that is this one, and the Earth PNG image, to which I'll provide the link in the description below so you can go and download the images. So let's start by creating a new composition. 1920 into 1080, 30 frames and 15 seconds should be good. So let's rename the composition to main. Hit OK, and here we have our main composition. So the first thing that we need to do is create a new solid. So hit Ctrl Y on the keyboard to create a new solid, and let's rename this to BG for background. Then hit Ctrl Y again to create one more new solid, and this is going to be our form layer. So I'm going to rename this to form. Hit OK, and let's add Trapcode Form to this, just like so. Now it is a 3D geometry, so what I can do is pretty quickly create a new camera, and let's make this 35 millimeters. Hit OK, and if I switch into my camera view, you can see we have this really simple 3D geometry. So we're gonna make it look really interesting, and it is very simple. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is go into the base form and bring up the size to around 800, and before that, even before doing this, go into the base form and change the box grid to sphere layer, and we have 3 layers of sphere. We just need one, so I'm gonna set this to 1. Let's increase the particles in X to around, let's go with something like 400, and Y also 400, just like so. We have good amount of sphere, good amount of points actually into the, good amount of particles actually into the sphere. Yeah, let's go into particles. I'm going to bring down the sphere feather to 0 and bring down the size to around maybe 0.7 or something like that. Okay, looking pretty nice. Now let's go into our layer maps and also bring the two images that we have into the timeline. Let's hide them up, we don't need to see it. And what I want to do is go into the size, and in the layer I'm going to set this to Earth PNG. So now the particles are going to get generated or going to be visible only in the white section of the image, just like so. So now we have something like that. Now let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it. So before duplicating it, actually I'm going to go into the rendering and set the blending mode to normal. Then I'm just going to rename this layer to land. Go into edit, duplicate, and let's call this lines, or let's call this borders. Okay. Let's go into the layer maps and set the layer map to Earth outline. And then what I can do is go into the particles and bring up the size to maybe something like 1. And for the size, I'm going to increase this to around, let's go with 600. So we get something like this. Then what we can do is select the land layer and go into edit, duplicate, bring this below, and let's call this outer land. You can of course rename it to anything that you want. And then all I'm going to do is increase the size. So I'm going to make this really nice and big, maybe something like that. Let's make this 1000 actually, or maybe 1200. Yeah, that looks much better. Just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm gonna go and bring down the size of the particles, not the size actually, the particles in X and Y to 300 and 300. And then bring down the particle size down to 0.5 or something like that. Maybe let's go with 0.6. So there we go. There we have the outer land. So we have 3 layers of particles. Now what I'm going to do is let's duplicate this again. So go to edit and duplicate. Let's call this lines. I'm going to just rename this to lines. Actually call this lines underscore 01 because we will be needing 2 copies of lines. And then let's go into the layer maps, set this to none, go into particles, not actually into particles, go into base form and bring down the particles in Y to 10 and bring up the particles in X to 2000. So we get this kind of lines that goes around the earth, and I'm going to increase this a little bit just like so. Looks pretty interesting. Let's duplicate this, go to edit, duplicate. So now we have lines 2, and all I'm going to do is increase the size just like so. So make it look more interesting. You can also, rotate it if you want to give it a different kind of look, which may look pretty interesting as well. So you can play around with the concept and try to figure out and come up with some really cool looks. Now let's go ahead and create one more copy. So let's select the land layer, go to edit, duplicate, and let's call this disperse. We'll call this DIS for disperse. And what I'm going to do is go into the disperse and twist settings, and I can disperse the particles just like so. You can see we get this really interesting look. So I'm going to set this to 20 at the very beginning of the timeline. Let's create a keyframe, go to 15 seconds, and I'm going to increase this really high. So maybe something like 65 or something like that. Pretty cool. So we have this really nice particle dispersion. Then go into the particles and increase the particle randomness or the size randomness all the way up to 100, and then increase the size to maybe something like 1. And there we go, looking pretty nice. Okay. Now let's go ahead and color this complete scene. So what I want to do is let's create a new composition, and let's call this color map. Hit OK. Let's create a new solid. So hit Control Y and let's call this F for Fractal Noise, because we will be adding fractal noise to this. Let's go and make this spline and maybe play around with the contrast and brightness a bit just to get a cool look, maybe something like that. And for the complexity, I'm just going to leave it at 6. Let's add a tint to this. And for the black colors, I'm going to go with a really nice blue color. And for the white, I'm going to go, actually I'm not going to go with blue, I'm going to go with an orange color. Something like that. And for the white, I'm going to go with kind of a darker orangish, something like that. Let's bring down the composition. So let's bring the composition into the main comp and hide this up. Let's go into the form, go into land, layer maps, and in the color and alpha, I'm going to set this to color map that we just created, and there we have a really nice looking color. So I'm going to do the same thing with every layer except the border one. I want to keep this white, so I'm going to do this with everything else. So outer land, go into layer maps and color alpha, set this to color map just like so. And I'm going to do the same exact thing with every layer. There we go. As you can see, it's looking very, very nice. And lastly, for the disperse, I'm going to do this. So as you can see, it's looking pretty interesting. I think it's a bit too dark, but we'll figure out that later. So we can, later on tweak the colors and all that good stuff. Now let's go ahead and add some glow to this, just to make it look more interesting. All right, there we go with the glow. Maybe bring down the threshold to around 25 or something, and bring up the radius to around 200. Okay, that is looking better. And for the glow colors, I'm going to set this to AB colors, and for this one I'm going to go with a nice yellow color, and for this one let's go with a nice orange color. Maybe something like that, Okay, so this is actually looking very nice. Let's go into the camera, and now what I'm going to do is let's create a new null object, make this 3D, and let's call this cam control. Then parent this camera to the null object. Then what I'm going to do is hit R to bring down the rotation properties and rotate the Y just like that. So we get this earth rotation animation, pretty simple. So let's go at the very beginning, and maybe I'll just set this to somewhere around there. Create a keyframe, go to 15 seconds, and let's rotate this a little bit. I want the animation to be very, very subtle. So let's see. Yep, it is slow, and that is what I'm going for, but I think it's a bit too much slow. Something like that. Okay, looking pretty nice. Now let's set this to full again. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and hit U 2 times. So let's create a keyframe, actually go at the very first frame, and let's create a keyframe on point of interest, position, and focus distance. Now let's go into the camera options and turn on the depth of field. Actually, I'm going to turn this off. Actually, let's set the camera first and then turn on the depth of field. So I'm going to zoom in and get a really nice camera, place the camera in a really nice position actually. So somewhere around there, maybe something like that. We zoom in a bit too much, and then let's set the depth of field to on and bring the focus distance to somewhere around there, and increase the aperture to around 160 and the blur level to 150. So we get this really, too much depth of field, I'll say. So I'll bring this down to 120, I think. Okay, that is looking much better. Let's bring the focus distance a bit closer, just like that, or maybe a bit far, I think. Yep, that is looking actually much better. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to 16 bits per channel. So hold Alt and click on this icon. So we're going to switch to 16 bits. So we get some really nice glows, Alright, so I'm going to start from right over here, I guess. Let's hit U so we can just see the keyframes. Go to 3 seconds. And then I'm going to zoom out a bit. Just like that. And we can play around with the focus distance. So I'm going to just, move it and find a really nice place to keep it. Maybe something like that. So let's go back in time. I'm going to bring this close. Let's see. Oh, maybe make this far a bit. Something like that. And also for the glow, I think I'm going to increase this a little bit. So actually bring down the threshold to, I guess, 20, and that should do the thing. Yep, that is looking much better. So let's see our simple camera animation really quick. Set this to quarter so it plays a bit faster. So yep, I think this is looking very nice, but what I want to do is, let's say I'll go to 3 seconds and select the camera, hit U, and maybe I'll play around with the focus distance a bit, bring this a bit closer. Yep, that is looking much better. And then what I'm going to do is select the camera and hit Ctrl Shift D to split the layer up, hit U so we can get rid of all the keyframes, and create new keyframes just like so. Go to, actually, then what I'm going to do is hit A 2 times, turn off the depth of field, and so we can easily switch to a different different camera angle, set our camera to a different location, I'll say. So he's somewhere around there, I think. Oh, let's find a cool angle. Maybe something like this. This looks much more interesting, I think. Yep. Let's turn on the depth of field and play around with the focus distance again, just to find that right spot. Yep, this is looking much better, but I don't think the camera angle is looking good. So let's turn this off and let's switch to a different, something like that maybe. Let's see. Yep, this is looking much better, I think. Okay, very cool. Let's select the camera, hit U so we can see just the keyframes. Go to 6 seconds, and I'm going to move the camera a bit to the right, and also play around with the focus distance and bring this to around somewhere around there. I think looks much better. And for the camera, I'm going to rotate this a bit so we get a really nice camera animation, as you can see. Interesting. Then hit Ctrl+Shift+D again to split the camera, and then there we have our last camera animation. So get rid of all the keyframes, create new keyframes, hit U, actually hit U 2 times, and turn off the depth of field. Let's switch and let's place our camera in the position that we want. Also, I'm going to turn on the title action save. Let's also set this to full so we can see it more properly what's going on. Zoom out a bit more and try to place it in the center just like so. Okay, so yep, I think it's looking pretty good. Okay, let's turn off the title action save. There we go. And now what I can do is let's go to 10 seconds, create keyframes right over here just like that, go back, and now I'm gonna zoom in a lot, so like too much, maybe something like that, and then turn on the depth of field, which is gonna be very, very intense. So let's bring down the focus distance. Let's see, unless our particles are in focus. I think I'm gonna push the camera a bit back so that it can focus on the particles that are closer to the camera. Yep, something like that. Yep, there we go. Now let's go back in time, and then I hope the PC doesn't crashes. And let's bring the Earth in the focus. There we go. So let's select the keyframes, hit F9 and go to graph editor. Let's select this point and hold Ctrl and Shift at the same time and drag this just like so. Something like that. So we have a fast camera animation and then it settles down slowly. So if I just set this to auto, now we are using too many layers of Trapcode Form, so it can be a bit heavy on the system, but the result are pretty nice. Now to make it look more interesting, what I can do is create a new solid, and let's call this OF for Optical Flares. Let's set the blending mode to screen and add optical flares to this. set the source type to 3D and go into options, clear all. We just need the glow. Hit OK. And let's place it in the position, but before that I'm gonna give it a really nice orangish color, maybe very intense, just like so, and drag it and place it in the position that we want, so something like that. Select the layer, hit Ctrl D to duplicate it, select the optical flares, and we'll place this one maybe somewhere around there. Let's change the color to kind of a bluish purplish color, something like that, I guess. And also I'm going to tweak this one a bit. Oh, select this and place it somewhere around there. So it's looking very interesting. Now let's go and tweak this one a bit. There we go, and I think it's a bit too far, so increase the scale a bit. Push this right over here. So maybe increase the scale a bit and bring down the brightness just a touch, something like that, Maybe go with a blue color, I think. And let's see how it looks if I go with a bluish color, maybe purplish color. I think this would look even more cool. And what I could do is I can duplicate it, hit Ctrl D, set this to an orangish color actually, and place it somewhere around here. Just need to find the right spot, I think. So somewhere around, maybe something like so, I guess. Increase the touch. I think it's looking very colorful, I think. I know, I'm just doing some experiments, I think. So hit Ctrl Alt and Y to create a new adjustment layer and add color correction. So add curves to this just to make the colors pop out a bit, just like a touch. And what I could do is I can also add some noise to this actually. So touch darker, and let's create a new adjustment layer again. Let's call this noise and add noise to this just to avoid any kind of color bendings and to give it a much more realistic, feel to this scene. And I think everything is looking very nice, I think. Now what I'm going to do is let's go to right over here. Okay, somewhere around there. Select the optical flares, hit Ctrl Shift D to split the layers. And what I'm going to do is go right over here and just change the position of the optical flares, because I think they are just too far. I can't even see them, so I think I'm not able to set this 916 to 540 or something. There we go. There we have it. I'm going to place this somewhere around there. Same with this one. Set this to 960 into 540. So it comes in the center, and then we can easily, tweak it and place it in the position that we want. Just like so. And they are 3D, so they're going to interact with the, with the camera. So that is a pretty cool thing. Maybe set this one right over here. Let me bring down the scale a bit, just a touch. And there we go, looking very nice. So I think all in all, the complete animation came out really interesting. I think the purple is a bit too much powering, so I'm going to bring this down really, just maybe around 20 or something. So that is all for today, guys. If you want me to create more of my older tutorials, so if you want me to recreate more or any of my older tutorial, do let me know in the comment section below, and I will love to do it for you guys. So with that said, this is a wrap for today. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, make sure to subscribe, comment and like, and I will see you guys in my next video. Till then, take care. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and don't forget to stay raw, stay creative.